Okay, hi there. We're working on a second part of a scanning job where we're taking an archive from historical work this work is going back from 1945 till 1992. Most of the work is black and white and it's all different formats. So right here we're working now with 4x5 film. So what I'm doing is I'm doing high resolution scans of this. I'm doing it a couple of different ways, but for this particular one we're going to use our Imocan workstation. These will be 16 by 20 silver gelatin prints and 16 by 20 platinum palladium prints when we're finished with. So we find the code notch, upper right hand corner, emulsion is facing us, and we place it into the holder. And as we're placing it in the holder, we're looking down at it to make sure it's in the right position. Now, once again, with old film, you know, if you start cleaning this film and start putting alcohol or any kind of substrate, unless you're a conservator, which I'm not, you don't have license to do this with your client's work. If you need your film cleaned properly, you need to go see a professional conservator, and you can go to the Art Gallery of Ontario or the Royal Ontario Museum, and they may be able to refer proper people that can do this kind of work. This body of work is in what I would consider mint condition. It's been stored properly. It's a body of work by Dave Hunsberger that we are producing a show for the Conrad Grebel Gallery Museum in Kitchener, as well as a few shows here in Toronto. And my gallery will represent this work. So basically, once again, just like in most scanning, just a little bit of compressed air. I never put the little nozzle on. They always attach a red nozzle to these canisters. Take them out, they're useless. If you ever have the nozzle blow out onto the film, you can puncture the film and destroy it, and then you're in big shit. So you notice I'm not really doing a lot of work. So I'm getting it prepared, and now I'm going to move over to the computer station, and I'll show how I set up for a proper scan. So we're looking at a black and white image. This is a portrait. It's 4x5. I've got shadow detail and I've got highlight detail. So those are the areas I'm going to look for in the scanner and make sure that I have detail in those areas. And with scanning, you do not try to make it look perfect. As in other words, you try not to make the scan look like the final image, because if you do, you're probably clipping information that you'll need, especially when you go into Photoshop. So we keep some information throughout the highlight region and the shadow, and we make sure it's a very safe scan. So we're going to put it into this the feed table. Okay, so we're at the workstation. This is the second type of scanner we have. We have about 4 or 5 different types. This is what's called a virtual drum scanner, Imocan. I particularly like this machine. The scientists in the world who do marginal work will say that this is not as good as a drum scanner. I would tend to argue that at 2024 and under, it's every bit as good as any scanner there is out there. A lot of scanning has to do with the operator, and if the operator is mediocre, it doesn't matter what scanner you're going to be working on, it'll be crap. So because I'm a printmaker, and I actually make the prints and I mix the chemicals for the prints, and I'm going to do the Photoshop work. I also like to do the scanning because I like to control the whole process, and that is the circle that we should all understand, is that if you pass off scanning to someone else, they may not understand what you're trying to achieve, whereas I actually know where I want to place value. So we did a preview. We're working in grayscale, 16-bit grayscale, 4x5 image. I did a preliminary scan, and you'll see I have a curve open, which is basically is showing me this basic preview scan. My histogram, which really is not that valuable, other than I want to make sure that I am not coming in with my histogram and clipping information. So I leave my sliders on the outside of the histogram, and basically all the histogram is showing you is that this peak area shows there's a lot of midtone, and here is showing that it has a little bit of shadow area right in here, and then also you see what I just did? I just did a marquee, and now it's only showing the shadow area. So I'll take that marquee off, and I go back and I'll make another marquee, and now I'm seeing the full body scan, which is telling me there's a lot of shadow, there's a lot of mid-tone, and this gray background, and there's a very nice little soft range of highlights. So I also open up a color monitor on my screen. I work with LAB numbers, which some people probably don't even know what LAB is, but LAB is luminance, A is the A channel for green and magenta, and B is the channel for yellow and blue. But in a grayscale image, if I'm now only concerned about my 0 point, which is the jet black down near 0, and my brightest white highlight. So we don't want pure white up here is one of our goals, and we don't want a pure black in an image, because contrary to a lot of information out there, and maybe not contrary, but what is reality is that if you're placing any detail areas, i.e. the skin tone up here, if you have a number higher than 94 or 93, you're taking a chance that that area becomes completely white. In other words, the pixels above 95 will not show definition, and therefore your highlights will start becoming white or chalky, or not chalky, blocked out. In other words, like when you see a really clipped image, that's what will happen. So I'm always looking with this meter here on the luminance value, somewhere between in the brightest white. So let's say we're going to say that this white shirt is going to be the brightest white. It's 80, but already the skin tone is 82. So there's a specular highlight on this head here. So we can bring the highlight curve up a bit. Now this is very old software that I'm working with right now, so you have to bear with me. It's not as fast as we would like. So I'm reading now 89. So I see that I've got detail all in this area. I'm not going above 90. I kind of like that, so I'm going to hold that. Now I'm going to look into the shadow area, and I'm going to go right into this guy's ear. You can see that in the little box, the areas, and I'm reading 18. That tells me I'm going to show some detail there. So I'll look into the darkest black area, which would probably be down here, and it's 1. I think that I should be able to see some light, some detail in there. Not much, so I'm going to raise the curve at the bottom end a bit and see if I can get a little bit more shadow detail in there. And now I'm reading 2, which is really not enough for my liking, but I will just like kind of let that go to, it's reading 1.5. I'm not going to get anything out of there. So obviously that's a pure black area. I do have detail showing all through here. I'm reading 9, 10, 18, 12, 8. So I know that I'm going to show detail in the shadow area. I'm reading 88, 89. So I know that there's pixels there that I can work with in Photoshop. So I have a very open scan. It doesn't look like the final print will look, but what I'm giving myself is an opportunity to have a full-bodied scan with detail to work on, and that's really what you're looking for with a high-resolution scan. And then I set it up to its maximum setting, and I'm getting a 134 megabyte grayscale scan. When I convert to RGB for printmaking on to make my film, which I have to work in an RGB, the size will go up to 300 and something megabytes. So it's a fairly large file. So we see our histogram. We're out at both ends. The curve just decides where you want to place your highlight with detail. So there's highlight with detail. I'm reading 88. I know that at 88 I'm going to get nice detail up there. And my darkest area, which will be the bottom part of this suit, is reading 4.7, which is still showing me detail. I like this scan, and I'm going to live with it. This digital color meter is really valuable. If your scanner can show these kind of numbers, LAB numbers, then it's a good system to work with. This particular scanner gives me RGB numbers, which, you know, I really don't like. I don't like reading RGB numbers in 255. I like reading from 0 to 100. It kind of reminds me of the days when I had to think of zone 1 through 10. You know, from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 zones. I have 100 density points I can reach, and so therefore I think that way. Whereas 5 is the low end, down in the shadows, and 95 is the brightest area that I want to hold detail. And then I'm just going to scan that, name it, November 8, 7. And this scan will take 15 minutes to do, and that's that.